Okay, it would seem that France is following in the footsteps of Italy, or potentially, as you guys recall, Italy has banned the sale of lab-grown meat within its borders, saying that it violates Italians' heritage and they want to preserve their food integrity. And so France, one of the political parties in France, has put forth a legislative bill to hopefully do the same thing there. Now, the EU may try to say, well, you can't do that because you're members of the EU, but that's a different fight. However, this prompted a response from somebody following me and said something like, if you don't want lab-grown meat, this is a political reactionary, it's based on nothing, and you can avoid all of these sort of so-called problems, the problems of antibiotics and GMO food and growth hormones and so on and so forth. And this, to me, clearly indicates a complete lack of what lab-grown meat is and how that process works. And so let me just review real quickly some of the problems with that particular statement. Well, number one is, the assumption is you put these cells in a little petri dish and they just grow, right? They just grow and grow and grow, and we don't have any inputs. Of course, that makes no sense to anybody that actually thinks about this. And the reality is those cells have to be fed massive amounts of food in order to grow, just like any other organisms. And where does that food come from? Well, it almost certainly will come from GMO crops, soybeans, pea proteins, and things like that. Remember, the protein, the amino acids, have to come from somewhere. And so they will get it again, possibly imported from China or something like that. Massive amounts on a massive scale to grow a lot of food if they plan on doing that. Additionally, the growth media that they have to have that, often will be fetal bovine serum. How do they get that? Well, they take a pregnant cow, they slaughter it, they take the fetus, suck the blood out of its heart, and it sounds a bit morbid, but that's what they have to do. There is additionally, remember, these cells do not have immune systems, right? They're just cells in addition. They don't have an immune system. They don't have white blood cells and a spleen and all these other things that part of the lymphatic system that we have. So how are they protected from contaminants? Remember, these are grown in bioreactors, but they have to be transferred numerous times. And some studies suggest even 168 times to get to the type of bioreactor they're proposing. So during every one of those transfer steps, those cells are vulnerable to environmental contaminants. And what are those environmental contaminants? Well, they are, of course, bacteria. They are viruses. They are fungi. These things are all over the environment. And if one of those gets in there and expands in a cell culture, you guys remember 7th grade science where you got petri dishes and you put a piece of bread on there and you watch the mold grow, right, just from the air. Well, the same thing happens. And so you've got this giant petri dish. So these things grow and grow and grow. How do you prevent that? Well, you provide virucides and fungicides and antibiotics in the cell cultures to prevent that from occurring. Not to mention the enormous energy costs, right? Remember, a cow regulates its own temperature. We are able to do that. We're not like lizards where we have to sit there and sun on a rock. We're able to, through our own natural body processes, regulate our body temperature. And so, but these cells can't do that. They have to be kept at a pristine level of temperature. There's a very narrow temperature range which they can exist in. If it's hot outside, they got to run the air conditioner. If it's cold outside, they got to run the heaters, and those cost tremendous amounts environmentally. Where does a cow get its energy? Well, from the sunlight and eating grass, right? So this whole concept of lab-grown meat is really just an exercise in venture capital, basically kind of masturbation, right? They're trying to create something that nobody wants. Really, nobody wants this. If we saw this with plant-based meats, nobody wants this, but they want to force this upon us. And why would they want to do that? Because basically they're greedy, evil people. That's the bottom line. They can control that. It's intellectual property. They can centralize the food supply. They can take food production and narrowly control it with a few handfuls of people. And then guess what? When you are dependent upon someone else to eat, whether on a national level or regional level, that's a problem. Right now, I can go to a local farm. I can pick up some eggs and some milk and some meat if I want to, or fruits and vegetables if that's my particular thing. But that is what they want to get rid of. Why do they want to get rid of that? Again, it's about control. It's about profit. It's about greed. And so it's a real problem. So we have to oppose this. So like I said, do not buy into the fake meat narrative. I've heard people say, I can't wait for fake meat so we can get rid of factory farming, right? I mean, this fake meat stuff is orders of magnitude worse. And anyway, the best thing you can do is continue to support local farmers, local ranchers, and build up that system. That is a resilient system. You know, the centralized stuff can collapse very easily. You know, it's wildly financially profitable, but it is subject to extreme potentials for collapse. And anyway, we don't want to be eating that stuff anyway. That Franken pet food, that disgusting, vile crap that they've already feeding us. I mean, most of us are eating 70% of that's what our diet is anyway. And look at everybody. Everybody's fat. You know, you look around, everybody's fat. It's like painful to walk outside and see all these fat, useless people. I mean, in many ways. I mean, they can't do anything. I mean, they're like, oh, I'm too fat to do anything. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be your kids. Remember, start teaching your children, because they're brainwashing your children in schools, teaching you that meat is bad for you, meat is bad for the environment, and you need to eat our fake products. Look what we can do with the wonders of technology, right? Where's all the flying cars? Anyway, guys, well, with that positive, happy note, well, at least France is trying to push that, hopefully, and I think Florida has also passed a potential law, or I think they're talking about that. Same thing. We need to get rid of this stuff. Again, anything that takes us away from a decentralized, robust food system, anything that takes us away from natural food is a problem. We should resist it with everything that we have, because you know, this is what it is to be a human being, right? And they want to redefine that, turn you into some transhumanist, part robot, eating your little, you know, processed nuggets. No, thank you. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.